Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Signs of Final Days. Here on the channel, we really aim to explore those profound topics, the ones that help shed light on the world around us, and hopefully illuminate that incredible journey of faith. We're all about understanding life's deeper questions. And today we're venturing into something that's fascinated people for centuries, but still feels quite mysterious for many. Have you ever felt that? A sudden, really inexplicable downturn in your luck, or maybe a strange illness, or some unexpected problem that just pops up right after someone showed, intense admiration, or maybe even seemingly harmless envy. Today, we are going to explore this very phenomenon. It's known across so many traditions as the evil eye, or in many contexts, nazar. And our mission, really, for this audio presentation is clear. We want to get beyond the common misunderstandings, move past just superstition, and really delve into the true mechanics of how the evil eye seems to operate. We'll look at its effects, the tangible ones, and maybe most importantly, talk about authentic, proven ways to seek protection and healing. We'll be drawing insights from, ancient wisdom, deep spiritual principles, and well-documented religious teachings to give you a really comprehensive and balanced understanding.
That's exactly right. The goal here is clarity. We want to address those anxieties people often feel around this whole subject. And importantly, to sort of dispel the superstitions that can really cloud your judgment. We hope this empowers you, the listener, to approach it all with a balanced and informed perspective, grounded in real knowledge and practical wisdom. It's not about generating fear. It's truly about understanding.
Okay, so let's really try and unpack this then. The beginnings of the evil eye. It's not just about someone, glaring at you with bad intentions, is it? It often starts with something much quieter, something you might not even realize you're doing. Telling people your plans too soon. That seems to be a key starting point, a kind of overlooked vulnerability.
It is. It's a crucial point, and what's really fascinating is the wisdom behind why that's the case. Think about your intentions, your hopes, your aspirations. Maybe it's a new business idea or a creative project or even just a personal blessing you're praying for. These things, they aren't fully formed yet, are they? They're like delicate little seeds you've just planted. Or like a newborn baby that needs so much protection, so much nurturing. They're incredibly vulnerable at the start. So the principle here is really the importance of keeping your affairs private. Now, this isn't secrecy like hiding something wrong or, being deceitful. Not at all. It's more like a wise strategy, a kind of part of poshi. That word basically means covering or protecting something precious, something fragile from outside influences until it's strong enough. When you reveal these plans too early, before they've really taken root, you essentially expose them. You leave them open to the raw, unfiltered energies of the world around you. And that makes them incredibly vulnerable, like putting a tiny seedling out in a harsh wind before its roots have had a chance to grow deep.
That makes sense. But it must be really difficult sometimes knowing where that line is. Who do you share things with? And who shouldn't you? It sounds like a wisdom you have to learn.
It absolutely is. And drawing that line correctly is, it's a learned skill, a form of wisdom. For instance, if you're dealing with complex financial worries, it makes complete sense to talk to your spouse.
Yeah.
Right? They're your partner in life. Your finances are tied together. Their input is essential. Or maybe you're dealing with something about land or property. Talking to your father or an elder, someone with experience you trust, that's appropriate. Their insight can be invaluable. These are examples of sharing with people whose input is genuinely relevant, helpful, and comes from a place of support, of shared interest.
Okay, so it's about relevance and genuine support.
Exactly. But there are many parts of our lives, our deeper plans, our personal struggles, those quiet hopes we hold that are truly private. Lots of people feel stuck sometimes. Others are trying for new opportunities. Some are just trying to get out of difficult situations. Developing that discernment, that ability to figure out who is genuinely relevant and helpful for this specific issue and who isn't, that's absolutely crucial. Your own intention matters, your personality, how much you know about the situation, even just your natural temperament plays a role. Ultimately, being able to keep your really significant plans confidential, nurturing them quietly until they're strong, that's a wisdom that often needs real discipline. For people who are naturally reserved maybe or have trained themselves, it might come easier. But for others, perhaps people like me who, tend to talk a lot and sometimes struggle to hold their tongue, this wisdom often comes the hard way. You learn it through setbacks, through tears, through falling down and having to pick yourselves up again. You understand painfully why discretion matters so much.
It's like that saying, a fish only learns to turn when it hits a rock. But through sincere effort and self-correction, there's always hope to prevent future vulnerabilities. Always.
That image of nurturing plants like delicate seeds.
Yeah.
That's powerful, a form of protection. But okay, what happens when those seeds do get exposed, maybe even by accident? How do people's reactions, even the ones that seem positive on the surface, actually create that vulnerability to what we're calling the evil eye? What are the sort of key categories of reactions we should be aware of?
That's the critical next step, yes.
Yeah.
Understanding how reactions play into it. So when you do share your plans, people generally react in about 3 main ways. And each one carries its own significant risk, potentially inviting these negative influences. The first one, and maybe the most common, comes from well-intentioned people who give you misguided advice. These are often sincere friends, family members. They care about you. They want to help. But crucially, they aren't really qualified or knowledgeable in your specific area. They might genuinely think they're helping, but the advice itself could be fundamentally flawed.
Okay. So, good intentions, but bad advice.
Precisely. And the impact. It can subtly derail your mental state. You start second-guessing yourself. Maybe you stray from the path that was actually right for you, or waste energy on something that won't work. It can feel like some invisible force just nudging you off course. Receiving bad advice, especially from someone you trust, and then acting on it. That itself can be a form of being affected by negativity, even indirectly. It saps your initial resolve and can lead to real setbacks.
Right. That makes sense. What's the second way people react?
The second reaction is the one most people probably think of first. Pure envy and jealousy. In many traditions, this is called hasad. This is that deep-seated resentment. And it's incredibly hard to spot sometimes, even in people really close to you, family, old friends. Some people just radiate that negative energy. You can feel it from miles away almost. You instinctively try to keep your distance. But then there are those who hold on to this destructive feeling right there in your immediate circle. Smiling faces, familiar voices. That makes it much more insidious, much harder to guard against.
That sounds really dangerous.
It is. Because if someone is consumed by this hazard, they might secretly mock your plans behind your back. Or, even worse, they'll inevitably spread your private business to others. This breach of your personal space, your confidentiality, it's like a secret leaking out, your news spreading without your control. And once your story starts circulating, it changes. It gets exaggerated, distorted, mixed up with rumors, misunderstandings, other people's negative thoughts and opinions. The further it travels, the more harm it seems to cause. It's like it symbolically sweeps away your blessings like a broom just clearing everything out.
Yeah.
Envy, hazad, is a really powerful generator of the evil eye's influence because at its core, it's a wish for your downfall, for you to lose what you have or hope for.
Wow. Okay, so bad advice from well-meaning people and then destructive envy. What's the third reaction? You said it was subtle but devastating?
Yes, the third one. And this is often the most surprising, the most subtle, yet potentially the most devastating. Overpraise and excessive, often unearned, motivation. It's a real paradox. You see, criticism, especially from close family, that can be deeply crushing, of course. It can really dishearten you. That's a whole other topic. But sometimes a person driven by ego, or maybe just a desire to prove themselves, might still push through that criticism. But overpraise, that can truly undermine you. There's a really profound prophetic saying, peace be upon him, that highlights this danger perfectly. He said that if you praise your brother excessively when he's not there, it's as if you've slaughtered him with a blunt knife.
Slaughtered him with a blunt knife. That's incredibly strong language.
It is, isn't it? It shows just how detrimental that kind of praise can be. It subtly weakens a person's inner resilience, their ability to see things clearly, to assess themselves honestly. This kind of overpraise, it spoils your perspective. It makes you overconfident, maybe even a bit arrogant, before you've even really started the work. You become like a spoiled child in how you approach the task. You see, every undertaking, every aspiration, it has a natural process, doesn't it? A thought becomes an intention. Then it slowly takes shape through effort, through facing challenges, adapting to the real world. It's like a child growing up, they need to face difficulties, stumble, learn, mature over time. But when someone is showered with excessive praise right at the start, they begin to underestimate the sheer effort that's needed, the inevitable challenges that will come up.
So they get a false sense of security.
Exactly. For example, maybe a boss shares a new project idea, still just an idea, with colleagues or subordinates, and they just shower him with flattery. Oh, you could definitely do this if you can. Who can? Or maybe a spouse gives excessive unconditional praise for their partner's plans. You're brilliant. This is bound to succeed. This happens all the time, doesn't it? We receive it, we give it. And if you can't accurately sort people out, if you can't discern their true intentions or wisdom, tell the difference between the wise, the foolish, the careless, the envious, then you're extremely vulnerable.
When you share your plans and get this gushing praise, or even just general uncritical encouragement, like, go for it, Allah's the master, it'll work out, you subconsciously start to avoid looking for the potential problems, the downsides, the pitfalls. Your self-confidence gets unnaturally inflated. It subtly pushes you to ignore the potential issues that will inevitably arise down the line. And this psychological state, created by premature and excessive praise, is a huge, yet often overlooked, part of how the evil eye could take hold. It opens the door not just to psychological and spiritual damage, but surprisingly, as we'll see, even to physical harm, because the mind and body become unprepared for the reality of struggle.
That's a truly chilling thought, that even something seemingly positive like affirmation, when it's over the top, can leave us exposed. So what does this actually mean for you, our listener, in practical terms? The damage from the evil eye, or maybe the wider consequences of sharing plans unwisely. It's not just one single bad thing happening. Our exploration suggests it operates on 3 distinct but connected levels. It impacts your physical, your psychological, and your spiritual well-being. How does this kind of multi-layered impact actually unfold?
Absolutely. It's not just one thing. The first layer is physical damage. When you let yourself get overconfident because of all that praise, your expectations become unnaturally high. You've essentially tricked your own mind into thinking the job's already done, success is guaranteed, no struggle needed. But then, when even small hurdles or difficulties inevitably show up, and they always do in any real effort, your mind, completely unprepared for any challenge, just freezes. It goes into a state of shock, distress, internal resistance. Why is this happening? It was supposed to be easy. This dramatically cuts down the vital mental energy you need for problem solving. There's a unique kind of energy that normally comes from a healthy sense of concern, maybe a focused confusion, genuine engagement with the problem, all necessary to navigate obstacles.
Okay, so the overconfidence blocks that problem-solving energy.
Precisely. And when that critical energy is low or just not there, your whole mind-body system has to bear the cost. And this often shows up as very real physical symptoms. Chronic fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, persistent stomach issues, debilitating headaches, trouble sleeping leaving you exhausted, or just a general feeling of heaviness, like you're wading through treacle. Profound lethargy. It's exactly why you often hear people say things like, whenever I start a new project, I just fall ill out of nowhere, or I lose interest so quickly my enthusiasm just vanishes. Their mind, having declared victory way too soon and skipped the crucial preparation for struggle, then finds it incredibly hard to cope with the reality of effort and setbacks.
Wow. Okay, so that's the physical impact. What about the psychological damage?
That's the second layer, psychological damage. When the mind can't cope with these setbacks, this clash between the inflated expectation and the often harsh reality, it can spiral into deep depression or overwhelming pervasive fears. The mind, which is operating under this false belief of guaranteed success, enters a state of really profound, unhealthy confusion. Now, it's important to distinguish here. A healthy level of confusion can actually be incredibly beneficial.
Healthy confusion. How does that work?
Well, it's that period of serious analysis, where you're weighing the pros and cons, sharpening your focus, really assessing the situation, engaging in critical thinking. It's a dynamic process, scanning possibilities, weighing outcomes. It's invaluable because it means you're deeply engaged using discernment.
Yeah.
But if the mind stays constantly in chaos, perpetually unfocused, that leads to pervasive distraction, a chronic lack of concentration, debilitating anxiety. That's the unhealthy confusion.
Right, I see the difference.
And this unhealthy state pushes people towards quick fixes, impulsive decisions. They might jump at risky get-rich-quick schemes or blindly follow unverified ideas from unreliable people. They mistake their recklessness for determination or courage, but it's the opposite of true focus, which comes from carefully looking at both the positive and negative aspects before setting a clear, resilient path forward.
Okay. Physical, psychological, and you mentioned spiritual damage as the third layer, the most profound.
Yes, finally, and perhaps most profoundly, we get to the layer of spiritual damage. Consider this very deeply. Allah to sign here. His infinite compassion and wisdom often opens doors of hope for us. He provides brilliant ideas, insights, pulling someone out of a long struggle, out of despair. This divinely inspired idea, this whisper of blessing, it's initially a sacred secret, isn't it? Between the individual and Allah. It's a gift, a private trust. However, when this secret, this fragile divine gift is revealed prematurely to others, especially to those prone to envy or superficial judgment, it's perceived in the divine realm as an act of, foolishness, immaturity on the part of the person who revealed it.
Foolishness. Why foolishness?
Because it shows a lack of understanding of the sanctity of that private connection, that trust. And here's where the deeper spiritual offense happens. When envious people react with scorn, maybe thinking things like, how could Allah give him this? Or he'll never succeed, he always fails. They are implicitly insulting Allah's decision, his choice. They're essentially questioning his wisdom in giving that blessing to someone they judge as unworthy. This disrespect, whether they realize it or not, is a grave spiritual offense on their part. It damages their own standing with Allah, accumulates negative spiritual energy.
So the envious person harms themselves spiritually by reacting badly.
Yes. But for the person who shared their secret, the one who becomes afflicted by this negative influence, the consequence is also profound. By exposing their private divine favor, the sacred trust between them and Allah, to those who would scorn it, they effectively dilute the blessing's sanctity. They invite spiritual weakness into that space. It's almost like pulling back a protective veil on a fragile, sacred connection, making it vulnerable to external spiritual corrosion. This really highlights the immense wisdom of discretion. I remember reading an anecdote. The attribution sometimes varies, maybe a great sultan like Salahuddin Ayyubi or perhaps Sher Shah Suri, but the essence is so powerful. Someone asked this victorious sultan, what's the secret to your incredible successes? It seems failure doesn't even touch you.
Mhm.
And the sultan supposedly replied, if my own beard knew of my intentions, I would hold it accountable.
Wow, that's extreme secrecy.
It illustrates the extreme wisdom, doesn't it? Guarding one's plans so closely, even from oneself in a way, until they are fully realized. We just talked about the extreme of foolishness and telling things too soon, and this anecdote shows the extreme of wisdom and profound secrecy. Of course, reaching such heights requires immense discipline, perhaps divine blessing. But by striving, by trying, and crucially, by learning from our own painful mistakes, we can hopefully cultivate more of this protective wisdom in our own lives.
That story about the Sultan really does drive home the power of discretion. It's fascinating how you draw that contrast between blessings that come directly from Allah and those we kind of desperately strive for, maybe just to impress other people. It raises a really important question. When does a blessing actually become secure from the evil eye? And when does our own striving, maybe our ego-driven need to display things, actually make us more vulnerable?
Indeed. It's a critical distinction to make. Think about it. When Allah himself chooses to make a blessing manifest for everyone to see, like the moon shining brightly in the night sky or the sun giving warmth to all, no evil eye can truly affect it. Think of the inherent beauty and abundance in creation itself. The refreshing rain nourishing the earth, the vibrant colors of blooming flowers, the majesty of mountains. These are direct gifts from Allah, displayed by His will, woven into the fabric of existence. They can't be cursed or harmed by a human gaze, no matter how envious that gaze might be. Similarly, a person who is genuinely thriving in Allah's favor, someone living with deep contentment and profound gratitude for what they have an inherent protection. Such a person radiates joy, inner peace. They're walking in Allah's abundance. How can the evil eye truly touch them when their blessings are so clearly divinely endorsed and displayed? If Allah has granted something and chosen to display it universally, then the entire world's negativity combined cannot truly harm it.
Okay, so divinely displayed blessings are inherently protected. What about the other side of that coin?
Right. Now contrast that with a very common human tendency. Acquiring material things. A flashy new car, a big impressive house, but doing it through immense hardship. You know the pattern. Saving every single penny, taking on heavy, stressful loans, basically bleeding oneself dry financially and emotionally, often just to prove success to rivals or maybe to impress family members who seem better off. This approach, it's driven purely by ego, isn't it? By a desperate need for fleeting external validation. It's like trying to quench a deep inner thirst with just a tiny sip of something sweet, momentarily satisfying maybe, but ultimately empty and temporary. When you achieve something through that kind of intense struggle and self-sacrifice, driven by ego and then immediately paraded, that's when those sharp, dirty, pointed, fast bullet-like gazes of envy and ill will get shot directly your way. And we, in our human vulnerability, simply cannot withstand them without divine protection. The blessing itself becomes vulnerable because its acquisition wasn't purely for Allah's sake, but for human display, for ego.
So the motivation behind acquiring and displaying matters hugely.
Immensely. However, if Allah grants a blessing with ease, without that frantic self-sacrifice, without that immense struggle, if it seems to appear almost effortlessly, fulfilling a genuine need, that is often a sign of true, divinely bestowed peace and abundance. Such blessings bring inherent protected joy. They aren't tainted by the ego striving. So the unquestionable sovereignty of Allah is therefore the ultimate protection. As it says clearly in the Quran in Surah An'am, chapter 6, verse 17, "And if Allah should afflict you with misfortune, there is no remover of it save Him. And if he intends for you good, then there is no repeller of his bounty. He is over all things competent. That verse is such a profound declaration of divine control, isn't it?
It really is absolute control.
And furthermore, there's a hadith, a saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, recorded in Bukhari, in the book of Qadar, narrated by Mughira. It states that the Prophet used to say after his prayers, "There is no God but Allah alone, without any partner. While what you give no one can withhold, and what you withhold no one can give. And the greatness of the great will not benefit them against you." This is the ultimate guidance for us. If Allah decides to give you something, no power on earth can stop it. And if he decides to withhold, no one can force his hand. So true security, true inherent blessing comes from patience, gratitude, deep wisdom, genuine piety, and complete reliance on Allah, not from that frantic human striving driven by ego and the desire for external validation. Blessings granted in that state of reliance are inherently free from anxiety and distress. They often appear effortlessly, fulfilling a need, bringing peace and abundance, just like the moon rising naturally in the sky. When Allah himself chooses to elevate your status, when he decides to display your blessings to the world, then even those who resent you are compelled to witness it. And their evil gazes, though aimed at you, tend to slip away, weakened, deflected by divine protection. They might cause a minor irritation, a headache, a small accident. Maybe your phone breaks, but not the devastating harm they might have intended, because the blessing itself is given by Allah with inherent joy and divine consent. The truly blessed person, the one who is content and grateful, cannot be profoundly affected by the evil eye in the same way. It primarily finds fertile ground in the arrogant, the proud, those who boast, because their vulnerability lies in their ego, not truly in the blessing itself.
That's an incredibly profound insight, how our own mindset, our intention, our reliance on Allah versus our reliance on ego can either invite hardship or attract divine protection. The difference between seeking validation and receiving true blessings is just crucial. And speaking of personal experiences, you mentioned earlier you have a powerful story that really brings this concept to life. It illustrates how even genuine love and affection, if it's not coupled with that mindful remembrance of Allah, can inadvertently invite negative influence. Could you share that experience with us?
I do, yes. And it's a harrowing personal story about my youngest daughter, Amina. Some children just seem prone to choking. They get things caught in their throat easily. She was one of them, though thankfully it had never been serious before this particular incident. She was about 2, maybe 2.5 years old at the time. My beloved mother, may Allah grant her the highest place in paradise, she was still with us then. We were all sitting together one evening after I got home from work, my wife, my daughters, my mother, myself, just having tea, chatting. A typical happy family moment. Amina was in a separate chair, happily munching on a piece of bread with jam her mother had given her. And she was making these funny faces, opening her eyes wide, tilting her head, doing all those incredibly charming things only toddlers can do. And all of us, the whole family, we were just laughing uncontrollably, which, of course, only encouraged her to perform more.
Oh, I can picture that. Sweet moments.
Exactly. But during this laughter, this joy, I distinctly remember telling my wife, not just once, but 3 separate times, "Please take that bread away from her mouth now. She might choke. I just have this strange, uneasy feeling about it." But my wife, maybe caught up in the moment, maybe thinking I was being overly anxious, she replied, No, it's fine. She's eating perfectly well." My mother also chimed in, patting my shoulder, saying, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Let the child eat." A few minutes later, maybe 5 or 6, that unease just grew stronger in me. I insisted again, "Please, just take the bread out. Give her something else. It looks like a big piece. It could get stuck." And again, the response was, No, it's fine." Then we got distracted, talking with my mother. The joy of the moment just took over.
Oh no, I have a bad feeling about this.
Suddenly, one of my other daughters cried out. Her voice was sharp, filled with alarm. "Baba, what happened to Amina?" Amina was sitting right next to me. I turned, and in that horrifying split second, her face was turning blue. Her eyes were starting to close. Her little head was slumping, limply against the back of the chair. In that exact moment, my mind just froze. It was completely paralyzed. The very wisdom I'm talking about now, discretion, remembering Allah's protection, it was utterly gone. I suddenly understood with terrifying clarity how the evil eye can strike, even when you're surrounded by love, even when you've been initially careful, if Allah's word and remembrance aren't actively present, shielding you. My wife shrieked, just a sound of pure terror. Amina isn't breathing. I saw her color changing so rapidly, this bluish, almost purplish shade spreading over her tiny face. I instinctively scooped her up and ran. I ran out of my mother's room, through the courtyard, towards the main gate. I forgot my own name, forgot the world, what was happening. Everything vanished except the terrifying sight of my apparently lifeless daughter in my arms.
I turned and saw my wife running barefoot right behind me, my other daughters following, their faces just masks of fear. I ran out into the street, still barefoot, clutching Amina to my shoulder, patting her back fiercely, desperately calling her name, Amina, Amina! Even though I knew, with this sinking certainty, she wasn't breathing. Her face was limp, her little arms dangled uselessly, her head just lolled, no support. My mother was at the doorway, shouting frantically into her phone, probably calling my brother or father, her voice trembling, "Come quickly, Allah have mercy! Allah have mercy!"
Oh my goodness, how terrifying.
There was a child specialist clinic just 2 streets away, maybe a minute's run. As I came out of my lane and saw the clinic sign ahead, this terrifying thought, like a heavy steel ball, just smashed into my consciousness. It felt like my perception was this thin curtain, this fragile veil, with maybe a tiny tear where normal thoughts drift through like gentle air. But this thought, it was like a massive, impossibly heavy iron sphere tearing violently through that opening. I felt like I was dying, like my soul was being ripped out, and the thought was chillingly clear. Your daughter is no more. We have taken her. My legs instantly turned to jelly. It was right then, in that moment of absolute desperation, total helplessness, that Allah's glorious name just burst from my mouth, instinctively.
Allah, Allahu Akbar, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. There is no power or strength except with Allah. To Allah we belong, and to Him is our return.
Whatever else came out, it was just this torrent of raw, desperate prayer. And as those sacred words left my lips, the paralysis, that overwhelming, crushing effect of the evil eye that had struck, I could feel it begin to visibly lift from my mind, from my being.
Wow, the power of remembrance in that exact moment.
I ran into the clinic. People were waiting quietly, but I didn't even see them. I ran straight to the first aid room, bypassing everyone. I shouted for the doctor, my voice hoarse with panic. My daughter is dying. She hasn't breathed for 5 minutes. 2 nurses rushed over. The whole place just erupted into controlled chaos. I gently laid Amina down on the examination table. A nurse behind me, seeing how distraught I was, just calmly but firmly said, "Move back. Let us see." As I stepped back and looked at Amina's face, I tell you there was literally no sign of life left. Her face was completely gray, black, almost like a black and white photo. Her tiny hands were stiff, rigid. Her head drooped lifelessly. She wasn't my child in that moment. She felt like just a vessel. I just looked at her and whispered, "Ah." The nurse, without a second's hesitation, grabbed her arm, turned her onto her side, and gave her a sharp, precise blow on the back. And then I saw it. I physically saw that black shadow, the visible grip of the evil eye, recede from her face. It peeled away with incredible speed of her neck, over her nose, across her forehead, and vanished. Gone. The bluish tint followed, fading away as color rushed back into her skin. Then she coughed, violently. A deep, racking cough. And the piece of bread, a substantial lump, came out. The nurse, just blunt and professional, simply said, "You people are fools. You didn't even check." Within a minute, just 1 minute later, I walked out of that clinic, holding my daughter. She was not only breathing, but after a brief moment of shock, she was actually laughing again. So yes, even with initial care, initial concern, if that wisdom, that divine protection through active remembrance of Allah is neglected, the evil eye can strike, often from the most unexpected sources, even from loved ones' unintentional, overwhelming affection. It just highlights the profound importance of humility and constantly remembering that Allah is the true giver of life, of blessings, and only He truly protects.
That is a truly harrowing story, incredibly vivid, and it just powerfully underscores how quickly things can change, how vulnerable we can be, even in moments of intense joy and love. It makes you realize this phenomenon is far from simple. And it leads us perfectly into addressing a very common but often misguided belief that many people hold about their own misfortunes.
You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, so many people adopt this deeply disempowering mindset.
Yeah.
They say, "I am always affected by the evil eye," or "my business, my family, it's always cursed." This perspective is, quite frankly, a profound form of self-deception. It's rooted in ignorance, and most critically, it becomes a source of despair that can subtly invite divine displeasure. If you constantly believe and tell yourself and tell others that you're perpetually cursed, always a victim of these external forces, you're actually conditioning your own mind. You're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it can indeed become your bleak reality.
So the belief itself can attract negativity.
In a way, yes. I constantly hear people expressing these kinds of complaints. My husband can't find a job no matter how hard he tries. Our business always fails. We work so hard. We're just sinking deeper into debt. My children are always sick. My own health is never good. Or everything in our house breaks. We can't seem to hold on to anything nice. And they attribute all these misfortunes to external, unchangeable things. Oh, it's magic. It's the evil eye. It's the government. It's the economy. It's the neighbors.
But often, digging deeper, such complaints stem from nurturing these blind beliefs, from a fundamental weakness in faith perhaps, and from a lack of taking personal accountability. These are often simple-hearted people, especially, I've noticed, women who are perhaps more trusting and easily deceived. The truth is, sometimes their husbands are being lazy, maybe living in a world of daydreams, chasing impossible fantasies, refusing to do the necessary small, practical, consistent work that builds success. They might chase huge, unrealistic investments and then blame the lack of funds on inflation or complain that family members betrayed them after all their supposed sacrifices. When people get stuck in this cycle of self-pity, blame, and victimhood, they often look for spiritual shortcuts. They go to charlatans, self-proclaimed magicians, astrologers, people claiming to do black magic.
The easy answers?
Exactly. They visit every faith healer or Baba in the area, spending precious money and time. And what inevitably happens? The greedy, the desperate, the often ignorant, they get mercilessly exploited by the liars and the charlatans. I've heard countless tragic stories like this, where people are just trapped in this debilitating cycle of delusion and being taken advantage of. Now, let me be very clear. I absolutely acknowledge that good, pious people also face poverty, illness, sorrow. Of course they do. But they tend to bear it with immense patience, with consistent effort and unwavering trust in Allah, without blaming magic or evil eye for every failure. They don't just sit at home crying about magic, bad gazes, amulets, threads, and charms, blaming everything external. Instead, they remain content with Allah's decree. They continue to strive with renewed effort, and they encourage their families to do the same. So to those who cling to this "I'm always afflicted" mindset, please stop deceiving yourself. Stop wasting your precious time, your energy, your resources.
Instead, try to cultivate acceptance of divine will, strive with renewed courage and practical action, and deeply understand that the ultimate control, the true power, lies only with Allah Nasco. Don't fall into the trap of those charlatans who exploit these beliefs for money. That can lead to far greater spiritual and worldly harm in the long run.
That's a very important clarification. Acknowledging the reality, but warning against obsession and exploitation.
Precisely. But let me reaffirm this with absolute clarity. The evil eye is real. It is a truth. Just as magic is real, jinns are real, angels are real, even death itself is undeniably real. The evil eye is a tangible phenomenon with real effects. The fundamental problem isn't whether it's real or not. The problem is the unhealthy obsession, the pervasive delusion, and the uncritical blaming of all misfortunes on it. Now, the evil eye can manifest in different ways. It might strike instantly, or its effects might appear gradually over time. Immediate effects could be a sudden, inexplicable illness, an unexpected accident causing significant harm, or maybe an immediate crippling financial loss. Gradual effects might involve the slow, insidious breakdown of relationships, marital problems that just grow and grow, strained relations with children or relatives, or even a gradual shift in someone's religious feelings, subtly pushing a previously devout person toward carelessness and spiritual apathy.
And you mentioned it's hard to prove.
That's the inherent difficulty, yes. There's no clear, undeniable, scientifically measurable evidence for it. Often we're left relying on suspicion, or worse, just pure delusion, to blame things on the evil eye. And even when there might be some truth to the suspicion, when you genuinely feel you've been affected, what can you actually do? It's not a crime recognized by law, is it? You can't take someone to court for casting the evil eye. So what then? The solution lies firmly in authentic spiritual remedies. Things like Dum, which involves specific recitations and sometimes blowing, or Ruqya, which are incantations taken directly from the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet's tradition, seeking help through sincere prayer and complete reliance on Allah. But here is a critical, absolutely vital point, especially today in 2024. If you experience any physical ailment, immediately seek competent medical help, please. Spiritual remedies complement medical treatment. They do not, and they absolutely cannot, replace professional medical care. And for financial problems,
Increase your honest effort, cultivate unwavering patience, deepen your trust in Allah, and, critically, acquire more practical knowledge about your field, about the economy. This straightforward, balanced, pragmatic approach is essential. Those who deny these realities and choose instead to visit charlatans often end up further exploited and deeper in trouble. It is far, far better to learn to heal yourself through authentic, divinely sanctioned means.
Okay, given everything we've discussed, the subtle ways it takes hold, the profound, multi-layered impact, it's clear that understanding is just the first step. What are the practical, actionable steps we can take? How can we protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, drawing directly from authentic teachings and, well, robust spiritual discipline? How can we proactively shield ourselves?
That's an excellent and absolute crucial question, leading us right into the practical solutions. The most authentic spiritual remedies known collectively as ruqya or dumb, involve specific recitations from the Quran and the Sunnah, the tradition of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. First, the core recitations. These act like powerful spiritual fortresses. There's Ayatul Kursi, often called the throne verse. It's revered because it's such a comprehensive declaration of Allah's oneness, His supreme power, His infinite knowledge. It really serves as an impenetrable spiritual shield. Then, Surah Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran. It's essentially a complete prayer for guidance, for healing, for protection in every aspect of life. It embodies seeking Allah's help in every single step. And finally, the Muawwidhatayn. These are the last two chapters of the Quran, Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. These are profoundly powerful, specific prayers seeking refuge from all kinds of evil, including envy, magic, and those whispers of doubt from unseen forces.
So those are the core ones, Ayatul Kursi, Fatiha, and the last two surahs.
Exactly. And it's also critically important to recite Durud Ibrahimi, the specific prayer, sending blessings upon the Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them, at the beginning and end of any supplication or recitation you do for protection. Maybe do it 3 times or 7 times. This act of sending blessings, it serves as a way to seek acceptance for your prayers, and it adds immense spiritual weight. And you should especially make it a habit to recite these verses and supplications over your children, daily if you can. As we've discussed, they are particularly vulnerable.
That's very practical advice. Are there other specific prayers or supplications?
Yes, beyond these core recitations, there are specific, powerful supplications taught directly by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, specifically for protection. One beautiful prayer was actually used by Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, for his sons, Ismail and Yishak. And Prophet Muhammad taught it to us. It goes, Odu bi kalimati Allahi atama min kulli shaytanin wa hamati wa min kulli ainin lama. It means, I seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from every devil and every poisonous pest and from every evil eye. This profound prayer acknowledges Allah's ultimate protection and the perfection of His words as a shield. Another incredibly powerful one was taught by the angel Gabriel, to the Prophet himself when he was unwell. It is, Bismillahi arkika, min kulli shayin yudkika, min shari kulli nafsin ainin hasid, Allahu yashfika, Bismillahi arkika. This translates to, in the name of Allah, I perform ruqya, spiritual healing protection for you, from everything that harms you, from the evil of every soul or envious eye. May Allah cure you. In the name of Allah, I perform ruqya for you.
This is so comprehensive, covering a vast range of harms and directly calling on Allah's healing power.
Those are beautiful and powerful prayers.
They are. And furthermore, there's a crucial spiritual etiquette we should all practice. When you see something pleasing or admirable, whether it's in yourself, your possessions, or in someone else, you should immediately say, Barakallahu alayka. It means, may Allah bless you, or may Allah bless it. This simple phrase acts like a spiritual neutralizer. It deflects any potential negative energy or envy, transforming it into a prayer for blessing instead. Also, consistently recite, Mashallah wa la quwwata illa billah. What Allah wills has happened. There is no power except with Allah. And la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no power or strength except with Allah. These phrases firmly place all power, all will with Allah, diffusing any human ego or potential for a negative gaze to take root.
Those recitations and prayers offer truly powerful spiritual tools, but what about more sort of physical or immediate actions? You mentioned a fascinating practice involving washing earlier. Can you tell us more about that and other immediate steps we can take if we feel directly targeted?
Indeed. Beyond the recitations, there's a very unique and ancient practice. The practice of washing, or ghusl, performed by the person suspected of casting the evil eye. There's a clear prophetic tradition found in well-known collections like Sunan Abi Dawud, Nisai, and Bukhari that details this. A famous incident involved one of the companions, Sahal bin Hanif. He was once bathing, and another companion, Amir bin Rabi'a, passed by. Amir saw Sahal's remarkably fair skin and perhaps unintentionally just exclaimed, "Wow, I've never seen such beautiful skin, not even on a maiden hidden away." Immediately after he said this, Sahal collapsed, gravely ill. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was told about it. He asked, "Who among you do you suspect?" When Amir was identified, the Prophet expressed strong disapproval, saying, "Why would one of you kill his brother?" He then commanded Amir to perform ablution, wudu, specifically washing his face, his hands up to the elbows, his knees, and the inside edge of his lower garment, to collect that water. This water was then poured over Sahal from behind, and astonishingly, Sahal immediately recovered and got up.
That's an amazing story, but asking someone to do that today sounds awkward.
It absolutely can be, yes.
Yeah.
In our modern context, directly asking someone, "Hey, I think you gave me the evil eye, can you wash up for me?" can be socially very awkward. even offensive, because it's a direct accusation. However, there might be nuanced ways. If the person who perhaps unintentionally cast the eye becomes aware of it, maybe they feel a pang of regret or realize they had a negative thought about someone's blessing they could offer to perform the washing. Or if the afflicted person understands the tradition, they might delicately ask for it, perhaps phrasing it carefully. And the profound benefit of this practice, even if it doesn't cure a real malicious evil eye, is that it can be incredibly effective at dispelling the delusion of one. Just the act itself, following the Prophet's instruction, carries immense blessing and brings psychological relief, which is a great healing in itself.
Okay, so it has psychological benefits too. What about immediate actions if you feel that negative gaze right now?
Yes, for immediate actions, when you feel the evil eye, that distinct sense of an envious stare or strong negative feeling being directed at you, the first and most crucial thing is to immediately start reciting the protective prayers we just discussed, silently in your heart, or audibly if appropriate, but with full conviction. It's also remarkably wise to subtly change the subject of the conversation, divert the focus away from whatever seemed to attract the negative gaze. Alternatively, physically move away. Go to a different room, step outside for a breath of fresh air, even discreetly check your phone, anything to break the direct eye contact or the sustained focus that the evil eye seems to thrive on. Break that connection. And if it's possible, and the situation allows, it's often best to just leave the place entirely. Breaking the connection both conversationally and physically is really key.
Right, break the connection. And what about general preventative measures, things we can do regularly?
Absolutely. For general preventative measures, consistent spiritual discipline is paramount. Make it a habit to regularly recite the last portion of Surah Baqarah, the longest chapter in the Quran, especially at night. This particular section is known to offer profound protection against evil forces, including jinn and negative human energies, and it brings blessings into the home. Engaging frequently in charity and good deeds is also an incredibly powerful shield. The act of giving purifies your wealth, purifies your intentions, and charity is known in our tradition to avert calamities and draw Allah's protection closer. But perhaps the ultimate, most comprehensive cure for all afflictions, including the evil eye, all misfortunes, all spiritual and psychological distress, is patience. Seb, it's that deep inner fortitude that helps you withstand any storm with grace and reliance on Allah.
This section has given us incredibly powerful and practical tools for protection and understanding. Thank you. Now let's try and connect some final dots, understand the broader context of the evil eye and human nature, maybe clarifying some crucial distinctions that people often seem to confuse.
Yes, an important nuance we really must clarify is the distinction between an ain, that's the actual caster of the evil eye, and a mayin, the person who is afflicted by it. It's absolutely crucial to understand that not every single envious person, not every hasid, necessarily has the actual potent power to cast an effective, damaging evil eye in ain. The intensity of their emotion, their specific gaze, it varies greatly from person to person. Some individuals just seem to have a naturally stronger, more impactful gaze, even if they don't mean harm. However, envy itself, hasad, is a much broader, more destructive force in society, within families, in personal relationships. And it's something we are explicitly commanded in the Quran to seek refuge in Allah from. So seeking refuge from the evil of the envious person implicitly includes seeking refuge from the specific manifestation of the evil eye that they might cast.
So envy is the broader danger, and the evil eye is a specific manifestation of it from certain people.
You could put it that way, yes. And it's worth repeating. Children, especially those who are exceptionally cute, innocent, or perhaps display remarkable talent or intelligence early on, they are particularly susceptible to the evil eye. Their purity, their beauty, it naturally draws gazes, often gazes of overwhelming affection, but sometimes, unfortunately, also gazes tinged with hidden envy. Even close family members, through maybe overwhelming unfiltered love or perhaps some hidden unconscious envy, they can unintentionally cast it. For instance, if one brother is doing well financially and another is struggling and their children are playing together, the struggling brother's children, or even the brother himself, might unintentionally cast an envious glance at the well-dressed, beautiful, seemingly carefree children of the wealthy brother. This can happen even between spouses, or, as my own harrowing story illustrated, between parents and their own beloved children. Human nature is complex. We're vulnerable to these subtle influences.
It really highlights the need for constant mindfulness, doesn't it? Even within families.
It does. Now let's directly tackle that very common but deeply mistaken belief that The wealthy, the famous, the seemingly non-religious people you know, billionaires, Hollywood stars, powerful figures, are somehow immune to the evil eye just because they live their lives so openly, displaying their fortunes, their glamour. Let me state this as emphatically as I can. A foolish person might say they are not affected, but they are 100% affected. The evil eye is a natural, universal phenomenon. It's rooted deeply in human nature, not limited to one religion, one social class, or one group of people. Jealousy and envy are inherent human traits. You find them across all cultures, all belief systems, all socioeconomic levels. No one is exempt from the trials of the human condition.
So fame and fortune offer no real protection.
None whatsoever. It might be helpful here to distinguish, perhaps, between jealousy, hasad, and envy, which might be closer to the Arabic term gibda, or unwaya, in some contexts, although English often uses them interchangeably. Jealousy, hasad, in its strong spiritual sense, is when you desire what someone else has, and more dangerously, you actually wish for them to lose it. This is often intertwined with deep-seated resentment, even hatred, generating an incredibly powerful destructive gaze. Think about it. If a relative is gaining influence you desperately crave, or perhaps a husband is involved with another woman, the first wife often experiences intense jealousy, resentment, hatred. The gaze born from such powerful negative emotions, dislike, disgust, contempt, burning hatred, has an astonishing ability to shatter a person's spiritual, psychological, even physical defenses. It can cause tangible harm.
That sounds incredibly potent. What about envy then?
Envy, unwaya, or gifta, is generally understood more as when you desire a quality, a blessing, or a possession someone else has, and maybe you feel an inferiority complex because of it. While it might not always carry that malicious intent, that wish for the other person's loss like hasad does, it can still be harmful. It creates a negative perception, a subtle, often unconscious draining of positive energy, even without the aggressive malice. The core difference really lies in the observer's insight, their wisdom. A wise person knows with absolute certainty that no one is exempt from trials, from suffering. Even those seemingly perfect lives, the ones broadcast on social media or portrayed in glossy magazines, if you look closer, with honesty, you often find immense hidden trauma, deep depression, profound darkness beneath the surface. Only a foolish person looks at a celebrity's glamorous life on a red carpet or their perfectly curated Instagram feed and genuinely believes they are untouched by suffering. The wise understand that everyone, absolutely everyone, faces their own unique share of challenges and trials.
That's a crucial perspective to maintain.
Absolutely. And this truth is reinforced so powerfully in the Quran, in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 140. If a wound has touched you, a similar wound has also touched the others. This verse is such a potent reminder that trials, tribulations, suffering, they are universal. No one gets a free pass. And in light of this universal reality, patience, sabr, truly is the ultimate remedy, the ultimate shield against life's inevitable difficulties. And remember, consistently giving charity and performing good deeds are also incredibly powerful protections against the evil eye and all other forms of calamities.
This has been an incredibly comprehensive discussion, thank you. It's provided a remarkably balanced perspective on a topic that, as you said, is often shrouded in misunderstanding and superstition. So pulling it all together, what's the ultimate takeaway from all of this for our listeners? And looking ahead, what truly exciting explorations can our audience look forward to here on Signs of Final Days?
Well, I think the core message is now abundantly clear, hopefully. The evil eye is real. It's a truth acknowledged in Islamic teachings, reflected in spiritual principles, seen in psychological dynamics, and it can have observable physical and worldly effects. However, obsessing over it, blaming it for every misfortune, and neglecting your own personal responsibility, which absolutely includes putting in diligent effort, pursuing genuine self-improvement, being mindful of your own actions and mindset, that is a dangerous path. It's a form of self-deception, a terrible waste of precious time and vital energy, and ultimately, it's a great injustice to yourself and those around you. To constantly tell yourself and others, I'm always a victim of the evil eye, that's a sign of nurturing delusions, and frankly, it can invite Allah's displeasure by not taking responsibility for what is within your control. So take responsibility, use the remedies, but don't obsess.
Exactly. For those who find themselves perhaps living in that manner, caught in that cycle of blame, remember, our primary responsibility is to strive, to make sincere effort. The outcomes of the ultimate success or failure that rests solely with Allah. Therefore, if you sense the evil eye, there's no need for excessive worry or panic. Immediately implement the authentic remedies we've discussed. Rely on what you already know from your faith. True healing in the Islamic perspective is always holistic, It's not just about prayers, not just dua. It involves what I sometimes call the golden ratio of healing. This ratio involves three essential components. First, to prevent heartfelt supplication and prayer, recognizing Allah as the ultimate source of all help and all healing. Second, dawa, which literally means medicine, but more broadly it signifies practical effort. This emphasizes using the means Allah has provided: modern science, professional medical treatment for physical issues, diligent worldly efforts for financial or social challenges. And third, perhez, which signifies prudence, prevention, wisdom in your daily actions.
Like the discretion we talked about earlier, protecting your plans, guarding your blessings from premature exposure. Fulfill all three, duha, dawah, and parhez, with sincerity, with consistency. And Allah, by His immense grace, will surely bestow His protection and His healing. Strive to live mindfully with profound gratitude and with the wisdom that ultimate control and true success lie with Allah alone.
Dua, dawa, parhez. Prayer, medicine effort, and prudence. That's a very clear framework.
And I must, just once more, firmly address that misconception that the evil eye only affects the poor or certain religious groups, while the wealthy, the famous, the seemingly non-religious appear unaffected because they display their lives openly. As I said, this is a foolish assertion born of just looking at the surface. The evil eye is universal, rooted in human nature and jealousy, in envy, which are not exclusive to any faith, any social class, any level of success. Those individuals, the billionaires, the celebrities, they are affected 100%. The difference, as we discussed, lies solely in perception. A foolish person sees only the outward glitter, the public image, the curated social media feed, and concludes they're untouched. A wise person, however, understands no one is exempt from trials. If you look closely, if you really delve into lives of seemingly perfect public figures, you often uncover immense hidden trauma, deep depression, profound darkness behind that dazzling facade. Remember Surah Al-Imran. If a wound has touched you, a similar wound has also touched the others. Trials are universal, and patience, Astra, is truly the ultimate remedy.
Thank you for reinforcing that. Now, looking ahead.
Yes, for those of you who patiently wait for my solo discussions here on Signs of Final Days, I am truly deeply grateful. It's a real blessing to have your affection, your anticipation, your sincere prayers. My discussions often take a long time to come out, and I do sincerely apologize for the delays. The truth is, some of the subjects I intend to discuss are so profound, so intricate, so deeply spiritual, that speaking about them feels like my very soul is being shredded in the process. It requires immense, often agonizingly deep contemplation, meticulous preparation. It's a spiritual journey for me too, where I have to patiently wait for divine inspiration, for genuine clarity, for the right words to be gifted to me by Allah. This whole process, it's arduous. It demands patience, profound reflection, rigorous research, transforming what feels like immense difficulty into, hopefully, profound understanding for me, and then for you. I often feel like just a humble beggar, really, in terms of knowledge, simply waiting for Allah's grace to reveal the understanding and the precise words needed to deliver it effectively.
We appreciate the depth and care you put into it, what topics might be coming.
Well, in the future, Allah willing, we have some incredible discussions planned for Signs of Final Days. We'll delve into an in-depth analysis of true and false love, what we sometimes call ishq majazi and ishq hakiki, for those who've maybe experienced heartbreak, deception, or that profound longing of the soul. We will explore the compelling reality of aliens, examining this fascinating topic from both modern and ancient perspectives, looking carefully at its spiritual implications. We'll embark on a journey to understand the prophets, peace be upon him, incredible ascension, the mirage, uncovering its miraculous details and profound spiritual lessons. We'll dissect the challenging path of truth. We'll delve into the transformative power of the divine name, Ya Razak, the sustainer, exploring its impact on provision and our well-being. We'll also unpack the intricate dynamics of relationships, exploring the complexities of human connection. And there's a compelling new series I'm planning, focusing entirely on personal, inexplicable spiritual experiences from my own journey, events so astonishing that, frankly, I have no logical explanation for them. We'll dissect them, slice them open, examine every detail from various angles, and see what profound wisdom emerges from within. It's a continuous journey, a journey of knowledge and discovery, where every word shared feels like both a struggle and a precious gift from the divine.
That sounds like an amazing lineup of topics. Truly profound.
To conclude our conversation today, this deep dive into the evil eye, I'd like to leave you with these truly profound verses from the revered poet Qatil Shifai. They offer much to ponder about our journey through life and the wisdom of acceptance. Raskana Kamila hukum jilarian min, humne kusho hoke favarband liye baun min. When commanded to dance to the rivers, we joyfully tied whirlpools to our feet. This first line,
It beautifully signifies that ultimate acceptance of divine decree, doesn't it? Even when faced with immense challenges like the swirling currents of the evil eye or life's hardships, it's about finding inner joy, inner strength, even in the midst of overwhelming circumstances, embracing destiny with courage. Unko bihay kisi bigay humanzar kitala shubong takpin na bosa ki joke viseraun min. Even they seek a moist scene who could never sow a single drop in the deserts. This speaks to that universal human quest for comfort, for truth, for solace. It reminds us that even those who seem to lack insight, perhaps those who cast negative gazes born of their own inner dryness, their own dissatisfaction, even they are often, at a deeper level, seeking a moist scene, a sense of peace, fulfillment, or blessing that they themselves haven't been able to cultivate. Oh, my companions, you are all so tired and defeated. Don't mix yourself with the sun's harshness. I am fine. And finally, this line resonates so deeply with the wisdom of guarding our inner peace, not letting others' projections, whether it's envy or overwhelming praise or harsh criticism, disturb our unique spiritual journey. It's a declaration of inner resilience, acknowledging the shared struggles we all face as humans while maintaining one's own composure and unwavering reliance on Allah. May Allah grant us all a blessed end to our story. Ameen.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Signs of Final Days. This has been an incredibly illuminating discussion, truly, and we sincerely hope it has provided you, our listeners, with a balanced, informed, and actionable perspective on a topic often shrouded in misunderstanding. If you found this discussion insightful, if it was beneficial for you, please do remember to like this audio. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, so they too can benefit from this understanding. And please subscribe to our channel for more valuable and profound discussions like this one. Discussions that seek to illuminate the path of understanding and faith. Stay connected for more empowering episodes coming your way. Please remember us in your prayers.